Bama lost to Tennessee, and there's a lot of questions about the direction of this program and how this season is turning out under first-year head coach Kalen DeBoer. Is it time to panic? Are some coaches on the hot seat? Is that even acceptable this time of year? And what happened leading into the Missouri game that Alabama can correct? Still LSU and Tennessee on the schedule, so there's still a lot to play for. Did Alabama fall out of the college football playoff race? We're going to get into all that here on a Sunday. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. If you're not already part of what we do, like and subscribe. Hit the bell. That's so you know when we got new shows coming. And let's get this thing started. All right, with Clint Lamb, I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging with us. Cover Crimson, covercrimson.com as we talk Alabama. All right, right into it. You had a night to sleep on this, so you can tell us what the hell happened to Alabama.
If only it was that easy, man. I'd be getting paid a lot more money, I promise you. I mean, one thing I will say, I haven't had a chance to go back and like really dive into everything. That's going to happen throughout today. It'll happen tomorrow. But what I can say is it's maybe this is where I shouldn't have started, but I started with the defensive side of the football, and I started with the all 22 where you're only getting the defensive side. So when you're looking at the start of that game through that lens, it's hard not to be really encouraged because I thought the defense played really, really good football. Like Tennessee, like they were willing to concede numbers in the box to Tennessee, which I am, if you'd have told me they would have been willing to do that going in, I would have told you you're absolutely crazy. Tennessee will run all over them. And what people will say is, well, Samson did end up running all over him. But I think, that's a guy that's going to get his just through the structure of their offense and the talent that he brings to the table. I think maybe he ended up having more yardage than probably he should have. But I mean, if you would have told me going into the game, this guy's going to rush for over 100 yards, I'd be like, that's almost automatic. I mean, this guy's doing this in pretty much every game. But what I will say is early on, as I'm working my way through this, Alabama was winning with limited numbers in the box. Like they were doing such a good job. If you've got 5 defenders in the box or 6 defenders in the box, and there is 5 offensive linemen, a running back, and a quarterback, they're +2 when you've got a dual threat quarterback. If you've got 6 in the box and they add a tight end, they're still +2. And yet Alabama was winning those individual matchups, those one-on-one matchups. LT Overton played a phenomenal game, or at least he started this game playing absolutely phenomenal. And from what I saw last night, for the most part, that continued. He was wrecking people. Tim Keenan taking on double teams. I'll be sharing a lot of these clips and stuff to Twitter and then be sharing them over at covercrimson.com. But that guy, I mean, just being an absolute bulldog, handling double teams, getting off blocks, making tackles. I think Deontay Lawson was absolutely phenomenal as far as, shedding blocks, getting off offensive linemen, making tackles. It's unfortunate because you knew that wasn't going to continue throughout the entire game. Josh Heupel, when things aren't going well, the coach is going to make adjustments. Last year's game, Tennessee was doing really well going into halftime. So you knew that the adjustments were going to be minimal. It was really going to be from Alabama's side. And so that's a little bit different. When they're not playing well, Josh Heupel, being the offensive mind that he is, they're going to make some adjustments. They're going to take advantage. I don't think it was anything Alabama was doing schematically, really. That was the problem defensively. I think it was the problem of Dylan Sampson's going to get his, and you have a young secondary that's almost impossible against this style of offense not to put some guys on some islands, and they're going to get beat a little bit. And so, I don't really blame the defense at all, but you knew it wasn't going to last, which is why your offense had to take advantage of the opportunities they were being given early. And they did absolutely none of that, Nick.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a couple things here with the defense. I feel like Bama has a tough time making adjustments. And part of that, to me, is we saw the best ever at doing it, Nick Saban. And then, this Kane Womack defense had a great first half, but when the game was on the line, they couldn't make a stop. And I feel like that's been kind of the case. I mean, look, they didn't make a stop to beat South Carolina. South Carolina just ran out of time. I mean, that felt like to me, they never stopped Vandy. I think Vandy just got another third down conversion. So instead of being 12-16, they're now 13-17 against Alabama. And then, and then this game, the second half of Georgia, I that's kind of my feeling. I mean, look, I'm not a defensive coordinator, but when they needed to stop again this week, they didn't get it.
Well, I will say they were playing, they were manning up guys. They were playing the split safety looks, which is what everybody wanted them to do going in. As the game continued to progress and Dylan Sampson starts to get going a little bit more, like it's almost him. I mean, you're asking guys to win with limited numbers in the box, and you can't expect that over the course of an entire game. Like, unless they're just that much better than the opponent, I mean, it's an unfair ask. And so as Dylan Sampson starts to get going, Alabama starts responding a little bit. And I'll confirm this, but watching it live, it felt like they did start to try to make some adjustments where you're maybe bringing a little bit more into the box. You're trying to, slow him down, not allow that early down success. And then really there were some opportunities early on too, as far as the vertical shots. That's going to happen against this secondary. I don't think that's anything really you can do schematically to fix that. That just is what it is at this point. You got to ride those lows. But then really those opportunities started to get going in the second half when Alabama was trying to adjust to what Tennessee was doing well. And some of those opportunities started getting presented, and Tennessee, was getting into a rhythm. One of the best ways to get into a rhythm offensively is either quick, short passes that guys were able to create yardage after the catch, or it's a run game, really getting you some chunk yardage, putting you in favorable situations. So Tennessee was doing that, and then they were playing off of that with the vertical stuff, and it started popping. And so looking at Kane Womack in this particular game, and like I said, I'm going back to confirm all this, but this is just me working through it. This is me watching it live last night. It just felt like he did his job, in my opinion. This is not going to be a defense when you really need him to get a stop. I think there's too many ways that you can exploit this defense right now due to some of the limitations with the personnel, due to youth mostly. But I think that he did enough to help Alabama win that football game. And if you could have just gotten a serviceable offense, which is what you've gotten in almost every other game, it's been worse lately, but I mean, the efficiency on offense against Vanderbilt was incredible. If you get what you're supposed to be getting on that side of the football, or what you've grown to expect from that side of the football, Alabama doesn't just win this game, they win this game pretty handedly. And that's the unfortunate part, is that when the defense finally gets together, has a great game plan, guys are executing, playing at a high level, the offense can't play complementary football to that. And that, created some really bad situations down the stretch.
Well, I wonder if this means that Alabama's just another program now. You lose to Vanderbilt, you lose to, now you lose to Tennessee. You didn't play great against South Carolina. We kind of worried about the time that you can officially say that the dynasty's over. Some people are going to be like, look, the dynasty was over years ago. Look, they won the SEC championship last year. So that's a championship. We're not anywhere close to that right now. Yeah, we beat Georgia. Georgia beat Texas, but it's not the winning and losing. It's the way that this team just doesn't play good football. They're not smart. They don't play good football. They're competitive. There's good players. Milroe might be hurt right now. I mean, look, he hasn't run the ball effectively in 3 straight games, and now he's not throwing the ball well. Maybe that's playing into this, but it just feels like it's so hard for this team to do the little things right.
I think that we talk too much about, when we mention the standard, and you're going to hear that a lot. I'm sorry if you're sick of hearing it, but you're going to. We talk too much about how we look at that in a limited view, in the sense of, the standard as far as on the field play. When Nick Saban got to Alabama, it was the freaking custodians in the building. There was a standard for every little thing, every person in that building, and you lived up to that standard. Things were handled a certain way. The standard, whether it was right, wrong, indifferent. I mean, obviously, a lot of people are going to agree it was right, but you might not agree with it now, that players shouldn't have to do some of these certain things. But the standard was, you wore a suit and you wore it. You had everything done correctly. You behaved in a certain way. You were expected to behave. And I will say, this is something, as far as Georgia's concerned, I think they're not living up to the Nick Saban standard either. I don't even think Kirby Smart's got that down. And why? Because the little things, such as you can't get guys to drive the speed limit. and not make dumb decisions. Those are things Nick Saban, I'm not saying he never had DUI problems or, guys getting in trouble, but to the degree that you see at Georgia's program, they're not living up to the standard because all those little details, they can't seem to get those figured out. But what you're seeing is it's not just the stuff on the field, it's the stuff off the field too. And that's coaching staff, that's really everybody involved. And I think that's carrying over into the way guys, coaches, and players are really approaching game days, and it's making a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is more than just the NIL and
Way
the
more.
transfer portal. I just feel like Bama's got a transition going right now in terms of culture. I know people have said on the channel and the message board, and we read those, by the way, guys. So keep those messages coming. And thank you for being part of Cover Crimson, covercrimson.com. Right now, sign up for covercrimson.com for $1 just to get you in, or get the annual subscription and get this right here, the Cover Crimson t-shirt. Boom. Love this thing, by the way. But that they're not blown away by the leadership. And when you got a guy with a C on his chest kicking the football that's being set and slamming guys' heads into the ground after plays, and and showing that kind of emotion out in front of everybody. Look, on the sideline, it didn't even bother me, but they're out on the field, not coming off the field when the coaches call them. This game, we had a guy that's been out for a while get a 15-yard penalty. Not all his fault, but still, it came at a time of the game where you basically lost the game. There was no chance after that penalty that you were going to get a first down. It was like all of a sudden it became, fourth down and the Tennessee River, on that play, because you couldn't stop fighting with somebody instead of just getting back to the huddle. And you let the officials beat you on that because you beat yourself. But that discipline is definitely seen. It feels like they haven't figured out the offensive line. Maybe part of that is just that now the book on Milroe has just come at him from every direction, and he's not going to be able to pick it up. But when you stir it all together, it feels like Bama's in big trouble right now.
It doesn't look good. I mean, there's no other way that you can spin it. And I will continue to reiterate what I literally said last week has not changed. There was so much transition happening with the coaching staff, with the roster, everything else, that we should have expected some of this. But what you can't expect is it's not hard for Kendrick Law to know not to let your emotions get the best of you in those moments. Did this stuff happen under Nick Saban? Yes, especially late. There's a guy by the name of Jermaine Burton who let this sort of thing happen a lot. So this isn't exclusive to Kalen DeBoer. This isn't a Kalen DeBoer only problem. But Kendrick Law had been in the program long enough to know that's not acceptable. You can't do that. You run risk when you do that. And that risk bit Alabama. It did. It put them in an impossible fourth down situation that they didn't convert. And I did contemplate punting the football, what I would have done. But at the same time, I understand the logic behind it. It gives you one more play to potentially get a first down. But if that's a fourth and fourth and 7 is way more manageable than fourth and 22. Yeah. That one play has a much higher chance of converting, which allows you to continue the drive there. But it was just we're not seeing the little things. Guys don't seem to be worried about the little things as much. They're still worried about the big things. They want to play well. They want to tackle. They want to catch the football. They want to run the football. They want to get their blocks. They want to do all those things. But the little things that matter, that allow you to do all those things at a high level, if you're disciplined in certain areas of your life and then not disciplined in others, it's sometimes that transition, or that it carries over a little bit. And so you've got to handle your business in the right way with everything you're doing. And I just don't think, and then, like, once again, this is not a Kalen DeBoer 2024 Alabama problem. This has really been the last few years with Alabama. And so when you start talking about being concerned, I think you have a reason to be.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us here on Cover Crimson. This is our Sunday show. It's brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code NEXTROUND to double your initial deposit. That is the promo code NEXTROUND, and double your initial deposit at MyBookie. Let's bring on Chris Marler to talk about this ball game, part of our crew. What's up, Chris? Your take on Alabama and Tennessee.
I'm just still. I woke up so pissed and so mad, and I don't really know who I should be most mad at. Maybe myself for believing that they were gonna finally have a wake up call in Knoxville. Because here's the thing: the wake up call should have been the second half against Georgia, and then if it wasn't, it should have been a loss to Vanderbilt for the first time in 40 years. And then if that wasn't enough, almost losing to South Carolina, that could have been the wake up call. None of those things were the wake up call. I got frustrated all over again hearing about the Kendrick Law thing. Here's the fan part of me on this. And I know you guys just asked me a very simple question like, hey, Chris, how's your Sunday going? And I'm going to already go off on a rant, so I apologize about it. But
keep going.
It is like the fan part of me will say this. Kendrick Law made a dumb mistake. He also got hit in the face. And the old adage is always, it's not the first person. It's always the second guy they get. Always the second guy. And they were like, well, and of course, that's not the case when you go to Knoxville. Alabama has 32 penalties for 244 yards in their last two trips to Knoxville. It was a joke. Some of the calls that were happening yesterday. You brought up the 3rd and 7, Clint, that turned into 3rd and 22 or 4th and 22 or whatever it was because it was like a dead ball. Let's remember that it was 3rd and 1 when they went to commercial. And then they saw that there was indisputable evidence that said Haynes was out of bounds, which I didn't personally see. Maybe that's the fan in me. I also had a very tough time listening to Greg McElroy talk about Ryan Williams stumbles here and allows the defender to catch up. He had two. I've said this phrase more than I've ever wanted to in my life yesterday, and every single neighbor in this apartment complex has heard it. That Tennessee defender had two arms around his GD waist like it was an effing middle school dance. It was a joke that they didn't call pass interference on that. But Here's the thing. You had 3 turnovers and had every option and every opportunity to put them away, bury them, and or at least get a 2-score lead. And you did none of those things. You had a 93% chance to make the college football playoff after beating Georgia. And since then, you are 1-2 with a 2-point win over a 3-loss South Carolina team. Like, there's no killer instinct. There's no awareness of the situation. And it's deflating. It's deflating to look at because you were in the driver's seat for the whole country to make the playoff. And it took less than a week to have that turn.
Yeah, that's a great point,
Other than
Chris.
that, pretty good Sunday, though.
Hey, what? And, there's no way that you don't call that offsides on James Pierce. That's another one. That's just baffling to me. There's going to be calls where it's like, oh, did that guy get there early? Did he not get there early? I understand your point. I mean, did he step out? Did he not step out? All those things are like kind of like, okay, I mean, I can see it going one way. And in Knoxville, those things are going to happen. Some of this stuff was so blatantly obvious. And there was some of the stuff that worked out in Alabama's favor, like what I'm talking about there. That's going to happen in every game. And you're going to see fans, the losing side, pick some of those things. They're going to highlight them and talk about how BS it is. Did Isaiah Bond catch it or didn't he catch it? I mean, it's like you're going to always see these debates, and typically it works out, it's always the losing team that's going to do that. Some of these things, and there was too many of them for me that were so blatantly obvious, where even I had an Auburn person, someone who covers Auburn, chime in and say, yeah, 23 definitely punched Kendrick Law back. Like, I mean, when you've got people like that mentioning it, it was really, really bad on that front. Here's the thing, though. You can talk about how that contributed to the loss, but there's no part of me that feels like it's almost like the refs were like, Bama doesn't deserve this, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen. Like that's kind of, I mean, that's not the thought process, but that's how it feels. So you can't really, there was enough Bama did wrong where this is a Bama problem. You can talk about the refs, and we absolutely should, but it was really bad.
So let me weigh in on that real quick, because here's the thing. I've been saying this over and over again. So let's start with the James Pierce thing, okay? And let me be very clear, because I'm sure there's Tennessee fans that are going to infiltrate this thing. I've already got a couple of them that are saying that I blame that entire loss. I've said over and over again, like, Bama deserved to lose that game. I was saying it since like the first quarter, because it was like, you're not doing any of the things to go win a football game. Now, the James Pierce thing, what was most shocking to me on that was, and I hate to keep piling on this dude, but McElroy saying like, oh, it's a bang, bang play. Brother, this is not a tie goes to the runner down the first baseline in baseball. Like, it is very you have reviewable evidence of, oh, he's offsides. And there's nothing worse for any fan base, not just Bama, but any fan base, when you see something, then they start to review it, and they have a little expert that's in his little, review dungeon of officiating, and he's like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I think that should have been the call. Like, offsetting penalties make sense. James Pierce is the number 1 rated pass rusher in next year's NFL draft, and he's blatantly offsides on a 3rd and 9. And here's the thing, Clint and Mick, you pulled flags out of your pockets 26 times in that game. It's the most you've pulled out in any SEC game since 2019. And you didn't flinch in that moment on 3rd and 9 in a pivotal moment where I don't know if Bama even comes in there next, like, and completes the pass or whatever. But it's like, it was insane to me that was the case. This has been a problem all year long. If you watch the Georgia game last night, officiating, rearing their head in moments that like matter most, where they should be least impactful, it happens over and over and over again. There were 8 teams in the SEC, 8 out of 16 that ranked 90th or worse in the country in penalties going into this weekend. So it's a league-wide thing. Now, going back to the other part of it, like, you don't do the little things to go win football games. And here's the other part too. Jalen Milroe deserves a ton of criticism. I'm at the point where it's like, do you bring in Ty Simpson if it continues to look like this? Because, I'm not saying they should bench him by any means. I think he's the leader of this team. But what's happened over the last 6+ quarters has been kind of inexcusable by him. The decision-making has been bad. And I'll take it another step further and take some of the blame off of him. Guys, the offensive coordinator and the play calling, I hate to be that guy, but Jalen Milroe threw 27 passes in the first half against Tennessee. The first half. We ran 45 plays. 36 of them involved either a pass or a run by Jalen Milroe. Now, that doesn't include sacks, but like 80% of the plays revolved around him. You didn't ever try to get the run game going. And then when you did and it worked, you abandoned it by the very next series for whatever reason, because you were like 1 yard short, like on the drive that started from like your own 3. But Milroe attempting 27 passes when he's never attempted more than 20 in the first half. He's never attempted more than 27 passes in a full game except for twice in 20 starts. That's not a recipe for success. He had 20 incompletions. Like, why was that the game plan?
Nico attempted 27 passes total in this game. Jalen Milroe had 25 completions, and he completed 50% of his passes. And here's the thing. How much of this game did Alabama lead? Most of it. So why in the world is that so lopsided? I mean, and it's baffling to me because you're right. When they committed to the run game, they had a little bit more of a Dylan Sampson style of success than maybe a lot of people, myself included, were thinking that they could have. And they absolutely could not do it consistently. It's like you do it, and then you're just like, okay, we proved everybody we're capable of doing it, so you can keep on complaining because now we're going back to the old way. And that, to me, is where you can put some on the offensive play calling. It is a Michael Penix offense that you're calling right now. It's unless you're mixing in Jalen Milroe's legs. But you asking him to do what he did last night is exactly what you would have asked Michael Penix Jr. to do for Washington last year, as far as the number of attempts, the way that you're running on first down, you're throwing on second down. I will need to go back and look, but I mean, outside of that one drive where they ran the football pretty much it was the entire drive. I would love to know how many second downs they ran the football, because I highly doubt that they did it a lot. The other one that was blatant, and Mick, I want to get your take on this. I understand that it looked comical, it looked clown showish as far as the fake injury, but the fact that you miss giving them the opportunity to make a substitution is another situation that's just completely baffling to me. And here's the thing: what does Kalen DeBoer do in that moment? They have not given you a chance to make a substitution. You're trying to run guys out there at the last second. You're about to give up some play. I mean, your numbers are down. Right. So you're trying to figure things out. And so, I mean, I think their reaction of what they should do. I mean, do you fake an injury? I mean, I probably would have tried to do something else, but you don't want to waste timeouts. And it's just, they really should have never been put in that position. But once again, because of poor officiating, Alabama ends up looking like the joke when really an illegal substitution. How can it be illegal if you're not allowing them to substitute? I mean, I have a huge problem with a lot of the ways that Alabama handled some of these situations, but I also think that the refs could have done a much better job too.
I agree. I thought last time the officiating gave Tennessee the game. I just think Bama's not good. I'm sorry. I just don't think they're that good. I watch them play each week, and they can't get to the line of scrimmage without jumping, which is something that we've had an issue with. Remember what the days where Alabama didn't jump off sides? There was a time when
pre-snap penalties.
Yeah, we didn't have pre-snap penalties. We can't line up the right way. The officiating stinks. It stinks every week. It stunk for both teams. I know you're right, exactly right on that play too, where the guy's falling on the ground but they're not. The problem is that we've spent all this money in college football for everything other than college football, right? I mean, How many times have I said, why are we paying Christy Curry to lose every year when that money could be going to paying the people that actually brings people into the stadiums, right? The football team. Sorry, if women's basketball had a championship program, I wouldn't say that. Like softball, like basketball, men's basketball, like, some of these other sports, gymnastics, but that's not the case. But it goes further than that. The college football needs to have refs that are professionals. I mean, these guys are like groundskeepers and insurance
how much
guys.
they make?
Nothing.
It's not a full-time job. They make $2,500 a game.
Dude, it's like, hey man, it's like a pretty good side hustle. The problem is that
Ubering on the way home.
Billions of dollars on this. How much money is invested into these games? I mean, there's 100,000 people paying $175 a ticket to watch the game, and you got an insurance guy deciding what the hell's going on in the game. They're just not good enough. But I felt like last time we were there, I'm going, okay, they might be making $2,500, but 2,000 and help me out here, Chris.
$2,500.
$2,500 on this game, but who knows how much money's being made on these bad calls to make sure that Bama doesn't cover the spread when you got a guy 30 yards down the field throwing a flag on a play that he doesn't even have an involvement in to cost you the game. This time it felt like it was just it was crap for both teams. I think Tennessee won because Alabama's just not doing what they need to do to win football games. They could have easily won this game, and it had nothing. The offside sucked. The penalty at the end of the game sucked. But come on, man! Like, we got so many issues right now with this football team. It's scary.
You know what sucked more than that, Mick? You know what? Like, genuinely, you're right. Like, listen, I'm tired of going to Knoxville and having it be this. Like they talked about like all the pageantry of this game. Like, I would love to go watch these two teams for the first time in 20 years are evenly matched. The programs are evenly matched. And that's a tough pill for Bama fans to swallow, but it's the truth. Like, it did not take long to have these two programs be evenly matched. That's fine. But here's the thing. They gave you that game on a silver platter. And you did nothing to go ahead and win it. You know that the Ryan Williams holding play on 2 straight plays is frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? That when it's 2nd and goal from the 2-yard line, Jalen Milroe throws an interception on the worst jump ball imaginable. Like listen, you're in your 20th start as a starting quarterback. That's inexcusable. Like, Tennessee did everything they could to lose that game, and all you did was let them hang around. It's like that quote from Rounders, hanging and hanging and hanging around. Like, just listen, pay that man his money because they beat you fair and square. I think the I'm trying not to say the F word, the screwed up part for me personally.
I say the F word sometimes.
Okay. The most fucked up part for me personally, okay, is I think, and I'm gonna irrationally blame this on my girlfriend, but like, now that I'm like here with an Auburn fan, it took an hour after the game, and I'm irate and I'm pissed and I'm upset we lost. But the other part of me is like, I know we're gonna beat Missouri. They're going to beat Missouri. The other part is they can go beat LSU. Go beat LSU. You're not going to lose to Auburn at home. You can, like, everything is still in front of you. At some point, stop the effing bleeding and figure this out. Like, figure this out. So that, and I'll tell you what, the last thing, and I said this to Clint multiple times, I feel like this summer, or at least in my head I did, but the reality of what's happening here, and you saw it rear its ugly head yesterday. Bama had 41 players go in the portal after Saban left from last year's team to this year's team. You know the exchange rate. I don't give a blank what 247 Sports says it's the most talented team in the history of college. It's not. It's not. You can watch them play, and it's not. But like the exchange rate of what you brought in versus what you lost is not the same, and that's fine. I'm not like, you know, like you I heard you say this before I came on, Mick, like the culture and the players they have are just different. But the place that you were going to be affected most, and this is why I said they were going to lose to Tennessee in the summer, is you lost 12 defensive backs.
Yeah.
12 defensive backs, whether it be from the NFL draft or the portal or something else. You were not in a position where you could ever be thin from injury or anything else defensive back. And I don't know who that white kid is, number 18. I'll learn his name, and maybe he'll be great.
Yeah,
maybe
Hubbard.
Maybe
people love that
Will
guy.
Lowry.
You better watch
Lowry. Okay.
I'm telling you right now, I was getting a bunch of messages from people about. Then they were calling on the post game show. They were loving some Hubbard, man. We had a guy from Gulfport, Mississippi, who's Mr. Football, Mississippi. So
lovely airport in Gulfport.
Four star, man.
I'm happy he did well. I'm just saying, when he came in, I was like, listen, I'm very blessed that I get paid to cover this sport, and I love this team, but I had no idea who that was going into that game. I had no clue, and maybe that's on me. But like, my whole point is you're just thin. Like, you're just thin. You don't have. Listen, Mac is not it. The number 5, a kid from Penn State. He's clearly not like. There's a reason why he wasn't starting. They're just very thin, and I will say this again, and I'm gonna hate myself for it later, because I still believe you're a 2-touchdown favorite against Missouri. You're at home. Play like you got some damn pride and go win that game, and then go into Death Valley and do what you've done every single year there, seemingly since the Eisenhower administration. You've lost 6 games in Death Valley in over, like, what is it? Help me do the math on this, Clint. In 67 years, 6 games in 67 years. Go win a game. Go win back-to-back games and go to the playoff. You can still be the team that you want to be, and like you have the potential to be, but somebody's got to make the bleeding stop. And maybe we take a week off from doing the damn podcast here, Ryan Williams, and maybe we focus on some practice and stuff like that.
Hey, I'm just saying, number one, I am typically the sunshine pumper. You know, I'm an optimist. And I just, guys, I need just a day, another day. Give me like 24 more hours, and maybe I'll be back to that point. If anybody's watching, hoping that we're gonna, I need 24 more hours. It's bad. Yeah. You got a guy by the name of Gaston Moore, a backup quarterback for Tennessee, who's been with the program since 2020, coming into the game, and they let him rip one. They make the idiotic decision to let him rip one. He throws an interception, and you do nothing with it. Guys, that is so mind. Say what?
How many points did we get off that?
0. That is just the mind blowing. It's like that you couldn't have been handed a gift better. Imagine them bringing Ty Simpson in, and Ty Simpson, I think, is a really, really good backup. Imagine him coming in for one snap, and you let him rip it. And you don't see coaches do that. Heupel tried it, and it failed. And I don't know if that's just more, maybe it wasn't Heupel. Maybe it's just more trying to be a hero. Either way, and you do nothing with that. That is so mind blowing to me that you can come up with about 3 or 4 of those in this game that were just absolute gifts. And Alabama's just like, no, I think we're good. We're just going to hand this right back to you. See what y'all can do with it next time.
Can we also, for a brief second, also, by the way, Mick, you went to Buc-ee's this morning?
Yeah. Been a long day.
Hell yeah. Good for you, man. Do you live near a Buc-ee's?
It was a Buc-ee's.
No, I was coming back from North Alabama, so I was up there.
Okay.
It was a Buc-ee's kind of morning, dude. Just
hell yeah.
I got the
but everything better.
I got the brisket burrito, and then croissant, egg, and brisket, and I'm wearing it. I told Clint, because driving and eating at the same time, but not too shabby. This thing right here, this thing cost me $1.08.
Dude, I
What a
didn't know that
deal.
they had the brisket sandwiches were by my shirt size. They had large XL and double XL. I was like, good Lord. I grabbed
Nice.
double XL. Anyway, no.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is too, from a coaching standpoint was, and this is something that like there does need to be. The sky isn't falling in terms of DeBoer's not it. I will admit that it's the first time I've been like, maybe they should have hired Signetti from Indiana. I don't know.
No,
but like,
trust me, that was not
here's
the
the
guy you
thing
wanted.
from DeBoer. It was very clear yesterday. That Graham Nicholson did not have the leg to kick that 52 or 53, 54 yarder, regardless of him winning the Groves Award. He did not have the leg to do it. You could tell he didn't have the leg to do it because of the indecision on sending him out there to even attempt it from DeBoer as the play clock was winding down. So if that's the case, on 3rd and 10, the play before it, why are you not trying to move closer? What is it about Knoxville that we get offensive coordinators that on like 3rd and 10, we do nothing to advance the ball to give our field goal kicker a better shot at making a field goal in a hostile environment? Like, I just thought all the way around, man, it was bad, and it could have been worse. It could have been worse. And I will just say this for the last time before, because I know I ate up most of this airspace. It's like us holding the ball for the first half. But like, when you had this is like my therapy, so I appreciate you guys having me on Sundays. But when you had every opportunity to wake the F up. You had every opportunity to wake up after the Georgia thing, and then going, and you had all the rat traps and all. You are 1-2 since that game, and the one win is a 2-point win against a 3-loss South Carolina team. So if you don't see the wake up calls now, then I don't know if you're ever going to see them. And I hope that they do, because there's still a lot this team can play for. And as we saw in the first 30 minutes against Georgia, if they play like that and play focused and they can beat anybody.
Yes. Yeah. The ceiling still exists. It's still there. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think confidence is a big problem.
Jesus.
I really do. I think with the Vanderbilt thing, I think Vanderbilt's what shook everything. Confidence is at an all-time low across the board, and that's fan base, that's coaching staff, I don't know about coaching staff. I mean, I would assume so, but players for sure. You can tell with certain guys they're not playing confident football, and it's making a difference. And someone's got to right the ship. But I don't really know what that solution is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's
kind of where
I wanted to end it with you guys kind of answering the question last night. I mean, people are already saying that, they don't know if DeBoer can handle this job. They feel like that fourth quarter against Vanderbilt. I hate to say it. I don't want to give the comparison here, but it felt a lot like Shula. And I lived through that. Can't hold the fourth quarter lead, can't make the big play, undisciplined players. Fourth quarter program, man. It's all about winning in the fourth quarter. We're losing in the fourth quarter now. You guys
go pay Cochran whatever. I mean, he's hanging around the program. Like, go pay him whatever and see if he'll come back. I don't even care how that sounds. Luckily for me, I didn't become a Bama fan until not even 2007, late 2007, 2008 is when I started. Actually, I'm kidding. That is not true. That's just, I get accused of that on Twitter all the time. I will say the last piece of sunshine pumping I'll do today, okay? We saw what this team can do against Georgia. That was off a bye week, right? DeBoer has been good off the bye and with extra week to prepare. You are a 14-point favorite against a Mizzou team that has nothing for you. Like Mizzou should not be able to beat you. They don't rush the passer well, so the offensive line should be able to hold up. Like, Brady Cook has been average at best. The win yesterday was great for him. It was awesome to watch. But outside of Luther Burden, who looks very disinterested at times, they don't have a lot of go-to guys on offense. Theo Weiss has been up and down as well. Go beat Missouri 1 point or 1,000. I don't care. Go beat them. Get to the bye week, regroup, and figure out a way to salvage this thing, because it can still happen. Otherwise, I'm going to jump off the balcony, like Clint said, and film it just to, motivate the team.
Yeah, I asked him if he wanted to go. I said, what time?
From Clint.
what I said, what time do you want to come on the show, or do you want to come on the show? And he said, if I don't jump off this bridge first. So I was like, well, if you do it, film it and send it to the team and tell them this is what happens when you don't give me what I want. Clearly, it was a joke, but I will say, I mean, you know,
for me.
it just, I don't. You can't. DeBoer has to be. You know, you got to continue to ride with DeBoer. You don't have any choice at this point. The bad would far outweigh the good if you decided to go in a different direction. I still believe in the guy too, but you've got to see some guys start to write this shit, man, and see what they can do. I think Chris makes a great point. LSU gives you a really Missouri first, obviously, and you can't. I mean, I'll tell you right now. Missouri is not a top 25 team. They're ranked in the top 25. They are not, period. That doesn't matter against Alabama. They can absolutely screw this up. So, you know, you can't take them lightly, but then if you can get to the bye week, really try to figure some things out, come out with a good game plan. I mean, this could be Florida State, guys. It really could. Like, you want to talk about falling apart completely, being 1-6, getting beat by Duke. Like in that one singular game, Duke is Vanderbilt. Like Duke, I think, is a little bit better than your typical Duke, and they have been for the last couple of years. But you know, at the same time, it's still Duke. It still shouldn't happen. It's still the first time it's happening forever. But you've got about 5 other losses there that are just absolutely terrible. So as bad as it is, we talk about how, you know, Alabama is not a good football team. I think they're not a great football team. They're definitely not an elite football team. I think they're good right now. And they've got the pieces where they can become great. And maybe if they get some things right from a mental standpoint, they can become elite. But I'm not assuming anymore that that's going to happen. And I mean, I'll be a naysayer for the rest of this season. I mean, and if they prove me wrong, I will be on this show saying, guys, I couldn't have been more wrong. But I'm not seeing anything at this point. Chris is 100% right. You've seen too many opportunities to say, hey, enough is enough. And they just keep letting some of these things happen. And so I'm gonna be one of those people that I think they can get to great territory. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat Missouri. I wouldn't be shocked if they went to Baton Rouge and got a win against LSU. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Hugh Freeze and Auburn. Obviously, Mercer. They can finish the rest of the season on a winning streak. But I think even if they do that, I still would not consider them an elite team. I would consider them a pretty good to a great team if they're able to do that. But you got to be something special mentally to be considered an elite tier, and I just don't think Alabama's got it right now.
All right, I'd say this. They better get ready to deal with pressure because people aren't happy with where things are right now. And maybe it's our expectations are high. I get that. But I think also Alabama fans aren't dummies. They know what's going on here. They see the deterioration. And, we'll find out. I mean, they could lose all these games. They could win all these games. To me right now, it shouldn't be a coin flip, but it is. If Milroe's hurt, which I think there could be a possibility there. I haven't heard anything. I'm just watching the way he's throwing the football. It just doesn't look right to me. Some of those passes that were easy passes for him, I know I've seen him make the passes. He's not making them. If he's hurt, he's not running now, and he's not throwing now. Hey, it might be time to let somebody else get in the game, but going to be interesting. Guys, we will be back tomorrow for the press conferences. We'll talk about the press conferences afterwards. We'll have our watch and react with Clint and Chris. I'm still a believer in Kalen DeBoer, but he may have to look around the support cast and, he might need to find somebody that has a little bit more SEC experience, which was something that, people kind of felt like when he went and got, coordinators that didn't have SEC experience, that he was going to need to get that. And who knows? Got rid of a lot of guys that Saban had on his staff that were kind of behind the scenes, Pendry type guys who just know football. Remember when all Saban's, it was like Saban's buddies? No, these were guys that Saban knew. He had a brain trust there to help you put all this stuff together. It just doesn't feel the same right now. So they got, another week to get it figured out. We lose to Missouri, and I'm telling you, it's not that the sky's falling. It's going to be angry people throwing things at this football team if they can't get it done. Chris, what do you got going on this week, brother?
I don't therapy twice now because of this damn team. I'm going to listen to the Taking Back Sunday Tell All Your Friends album front to back probably at least 3 times. That would just be today. No, man, we'll be back on Friday with a prediction show with me and a preview show with me and Clint. And then, I'll be just doing stuff all week for 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge and Locked On stuff. And that's about it, man. Vern Dumquist on Twitter. Finally starting to get some things right, though. Some predictions. None of them about Bama, but getting some things right on the prediction thing. So I got Georgia fans somehow happy with me, which is the proof that the apocalypse is at hand. So there you go.
All right, Clint, what about you, man?
Yeah, we'll be doing snap count observations. Like I said, I'm working through the game currently on the defensive side of the football. And there's some really good from the beginning of that game. And I'll be talking about all of that over at covercrimson.com. And then, after a few days of reflection and stuff, as always, we'll start looking ahead to Missouri and seeing how we can get this team right.
Let's hope that happens, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code next round, double your initial deposit, and take care of some fun at the same time. Bama basketball about to crank up. They're a top 5 team, and it's going to be a lot of fun talking about that on the channel as well. But we'll cover Alabama all week, and we appreciate you guys. So for our crew, I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us, and roll Tide.